I wish someone would have told me you don't have to know how to draw to learn how to paint. I would have picked up a paintbrush so much sooner. In this video, I'm going to show you how to trace photos for watercolor painting. Yes, I said trace, because to be honest, I don't want to spend my time drawing, I want to spend my time painting. And for watercolor, all you need to get started is a basic outline. Tracing is a useful technique anyone can use to go from photo to drawing. Even if you can't draw, you can trace. When I wanted to learn how to paint, I was so thankful to watercolor teachers that provided drawings to use with their tutorials. Fast forward to today, and I'm a watercolor teacher. I offer an entire library of drawing templates to use with my watercolor tutorials. If you eliminate the drawing step, you can focus on learning how to paint. You can create more paintings and learn watercolor faster. If drawing is holding you back or slowing you down, I think you'll love my tracing method. I'll show you how to create quick outlines so you can skip ahead to the painting. I trace on my iPad with a drawing app called Procreate. The benefits of tracing multiply exponentially when you use digital tools. You don't have to waste too much paper, and there's an undo button. You can zoom in and rotate to make tracing easier. You'll always have a copy of your drawing, and it's easy to print off more copies. You can modify the reference photo, like resize, crop, recolor, and so much more. It's also a really great way to quickly capture multiple poses of the same subject for painting studies. You can store hundreds and hundreds of drawings on your iPad, and I'll show you how you can keep your reference photo, your drawing, a value study, anything else you need to plan your painting in one easy to access file. If you're new to Procreate, you'll learn everything you need to know to trace photos. If you're already a Procreate user, I hope I'll give you a new way to use it to support your art. Big bonus if this helps other watercolor teachers create and share line drawings for their tutorials. Anything that gets more people to give painting a try. Quick disclaimer before we jump in. You can trace your own photos or photos that you have a license to use in this way. I'm going to be using a photo from Unsplash today. Their license allows you to use the photos for personal or commercial purposes, and attribution is appreciated but not required. Please do not trace anyone else's photos, artwork, or drawings without their permission. That is copyright infringement. I'm using a 2019 iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil 2nd generation. I do have an uppercase pencil grip on my pencil, and I'm using the Procreate app. When you open Procreate, it looks like this. This is your gallery, or like your home page where all your files will be. To add a new canvas, you hit the plus in the upper right-hand corner, and there's some presets that you can choose from. I like to use paper, which is 8.5 by 11 inches, because that's what I'm going to be printing on. There is also an A4 size. Today, I'm going to choose paper, and it will open right up to the canvas. You can also turn the canvas if you wanted it portrait. I'm going to turn mine back landscape. To import a photo, tap the wrench in the upper left corner and make sure Add is selected. If it's already selected, it will be blue. You can tap Insert a Photo to add a photo from your photos library, or tap Insert a File to upload a photo that you've saved elsewhere. It will import directly into my canvas. If you open the Layers menu, which is the two overlapping squares in the upper right corner, you'll see that the photo has been added on its own layer. You can resize the photo by tapping the arrow in the upper left corner, and make sure Uniform is selected at the bottom. If it's blue, it means it's already selected. You can resize the photo by dragging these blue corners, and because you have Uniform selected, it will stay the same aspect ratio. Another way you can resize is to pinch in and out with your two fingers. Just be aware that when you're using this pinching gesture, it is also freely rotating your photo. I'm going to tap two fingers on the screen to undo that. That's how you undo anything in Procreate, is to tap two fingers on the screen. To redo, you can tap 3 fingers. 2 to undo, 3 to redo. While you have this menu open, you could also flip the photo if you wanted to by tapping Flip Horizontal. You can rotate an image by using the green handle at the top here. You can also do that using your 2 fingers on the screen, but it also resizes at the same time that it rotates. So I prefer to use the handles. You can also resize and crop your photo to the exact size that you want to paint. So say I want to paint this as a 5 by 7 inch, so I need to make it smaller. You could tap on one of these blue corners and it will pull up the dimensions that you can set. But I prefer to do it another way. And I'm going to turn on a grid to help. So tap the wrench and tap on Canvas at the top. Turn on the drawing guide, and now you see I have a grid overlaid on my photo. Select Edit Drawing Guide. This paper canvas is designed to have 300 pixels per inch. So if we change the grid size to 300 pixels, then each square will be 1 inch. So down here at the bottom, you can tap on the number and type in 300 and hit done. Now each of our squares is 1 inch. I will click done to exit out of there, and now I can use the grid to help me resize my photo. So tap on the arrow. You can use the pencil to move your photo around. I'm going to line it up in this corner of this square, and then I can grab this opposite corner and drag it in until it's fitting in 5 squares by 7 squares. So now it's 5 by 7 inches. But let's say I want it to be an 8 by 10, which is a different aspect ratio from the original photo. So I'm going to use 2 fingers on the screen to undo. I'm going to position my photo so it is filling up 8 squares this way, 10 squares this way. I want to make it larger than that, and I can center the hummingbird. Once you have it where you like it, hit the S button up here and change it to rectangle. Now you can drag out a rectangle selection starting in the upper corner and dragging down to the bottom. So I've just dragged out a rectangle that's 8 by 10 using my grid as a guide. Now I'm going to tap invert on the bottom, and I'm going to use 3 fingers to scrub across the screen, and it's going to delete everything hanging out of our 8 by 10 inch area. I'm going to tap 2 fingers to undo that so I can show you another way, because that 3-finger scrubbing sometimes is hard. So you can also tap the layer menu, tap on the layer, and tap clear. That will do the same thing. Now your image is cropped to the size that you want to paint. And we can go back to the wrench and turn off the drawing guide to make that grid go away. Now you're ready to trace on top of the photo. The first thing you want to do is lower the opacity of the photo so it will be easier to see your tracing. Open the layer menu, tap on the N, and slide the opacity down to around 50%. Now it will be easier to see anything that you draw on top of the photo. You can tap N to close that menu, and then swipe left with your pencil and tap lock. That will lock the photo layer so you don't accidentally draw on it or change the photo. Now we want to add a layer on top for the tracing. So hit the plus button in the layers menu, and that will add a blank layer on top of our drawing. This is like our digital tracing paper. This is the layer that you're going to trace on. To choose a pencil for tracing, tap the brush and go into the sketching set. 3 of the default pencils I like to use are the HB pencil, the 6B pencil, and the Narinder pencil. The Narinder pencil is my favorite for tracing. Tap the brush that you want to select it. Tap the brush again to open its settings. There is one important setting I want to show you in here. It's called Streamline. It's under Stabilization, and it's going to smooth out your lines. So go to Stabilization and play with this amount slider under Streamline. If you turn it all the way to 0 and start drawing, you'll see that the line isn't as smooth. If you turn it all the way up to 100, and if I draw a new line, you'll see how much smoother it's going down. So So play with this setting to find the amount of streamline you like. For tracing, I set mine to 75%. Or maybe more if I've had too much coffee to drink and my hand is really shaky. Tap Done and tap the brush icon to close that menu. Now you can test out your pencil on your drawing. Tap 2 fingers to undo. If you want to change the color of the pencil, tap the circle in the upper right corner. Depending on what I'm tracing, sometimes I will turn my pencil to a bright pink color just so that it's easier to see. I can show you at the end how to make the lines black again before you print. For this tutorial, I'm going to trace in black. You can adjust the stroke size of your pencil with this slider on the left. Mine is at 50%, and with this pencil, that makes a nice thin line. Later, I'll show you an easy way to darken these lines before printing. Now we're ready to start tracing. You can just go along and draw the outline of your subject. You can zoom in by pinching outward with 2 fingers. So if you want to zoom in real close to trace the eye, you can zoom back out by pinching in with 2 fingers. You can also rotate the canvas with 2 fingers if that makes it easier to trace. If you make a mistake, you can use the 2-finger tap to undo. Just be aware it will erase an entire continuous line. So if you don't want to erase the entire line and just want to erase a section of it, you can use the eraser. Tap the eraser icon in the upper right and you can set it to any brush. I like to use the Studio Pen, which is under inking. You can adjust the eraser size just like you adjust the brush size, and then you can erase whatever portion of the line that you want. The key to a good tracing is to keep it simple. Don't trace every detail that you see. You just need enough of a guideline to paint from. Keeping the drawing simple will make it easier to transfer your drawing to watercolor paper and make it easier to paint. So for this hummingbird, I'm not going to trace all of these feather details in here, but I might capture these scallops on the neck because that's a defining feature of hummingbirds that I want to make sure I capture accurately. I'm also not going to trace a line between the 2 different colors here on the body, because when I paint, I want there to be a soft edge between these 2 different colors. So mostly I'm only tracing what will be a hard edge in the painting. For these tiger studies, I didn't trace any lines to separate the white and orange fur because I wanted to do soft paint edges there. But I did draw in all the dark stripes because the paint would easily cover the pencil lines. I also didn't draw in any of the whiskers when I was tracing, and I used some broken lines for the fur. You can also modify things that you don't like about the photo while you're tracing. So this hummingbird has its tongue sticking out and I don't want to paint it that way. So I'm just going to draw the beak and close it at the end. Another thing you can do is add an additional layer for a value study. I'm going to hold on this layer and drag it below my photo layer. If I hit the check mark, I can turn off the photo and my tracing, and I can bring in a value study for reference while I'm painting. To see how I make value studies from photos, watch my How to Design a Painting video. When you're done tracing, you can toggle off the photo layer to check how your tracing looks. So in the layers menu, tap the check mark next to the photo and it will turn that layer off. Now let me show you real quick, if you traced your photo in a different color, how to change it back to black. Change your pencil color back to black. Open your layers menu, tap on the layer with your tracing, tap Alpha Lock. Tap the layer again and tap Fill Layer. Tap once more and turn Alpha Lock back off. Now, these thin lines might be hard to see on a printout or when you're using a light table to transfer them to watercolor paper. An easy way to make the lines darker is to duplicate the tracing layer. So in the Layers menu, swipe left on your tracing layer and hit Duplicate. Do you see how that just made those lines a little thicker and a little darker? And you can do that multiple times. Swipe left and hit Duplicate. Each time you do, the lines will get a little darker. And then to keep everything clean, you can merge those layers together by just pinching them together. If you don't like doing that pinching gesture, I'll undo that. You can tap on the layer and hit Merge Down. Tap on the layer and hit Merge Down, and that will do the same thing. Now you're ready to export your drawing or print it. Make sure the photo layer is turned off and any other layers that you added. You just want to see your tracing here. You can go to the wrench, tap Share, and tap PDF. Choose Best Quality. Tap Save to Files, and you can tap Untitled Artwork here at the bottom to rename it. And then when you hit Save, it will say Export Successful. The other option you have is to print it directly, and that is not very obvious how to do from Procreate. So from that same menu, if you tap the PDF again, choose Best Quality, it's once you get in here that you can actually select to print it. There is no print button directly in Procreate. To close your file when you're done, tap Gallery and you'll go back to your main screen. You can also rename the file here inside of Procreate. Just tap the name. Then when you're ready to paint, you can come back to this file, open your layers, turn off the drawing, turn back on the photo, swipe to unlock that layer, tap the N, turn up the opacity to 100%, tap N to close that, and then I also turn on the value study underneath. Then I can use these checkboxes to toggle back and forth between the value study and the color image. Now you can print out your drawing and watch 4 tracing hacks every watercolor artist needs to know. In that video, I'll show you how to get your printed drawing onto any watercolor paper, even if it's in a sketchbook or a watercolor block.